Hello, everyone. In this week's episodes, first, Clark falls down a hole and in love. Lex outwits his dad, and there's the wolf among us. Then Clark goes wild. Whitney comes back and is freaking out, and Lex is brokenhearted. This is the Smallville Chronicles. Hello, I am Lou Gonzalez. Joining me as always, my co-host, Alan Muir.
Hashtag Smallville lives 2018.
Yeah, I know. We are actually relevant for once. We could talk about that a little, I guess, when we're finished.
Yeah.
But we watched episode 10 of season 2, which is episode 31, and episode 11, and that's episode 32. So our first one is Skinwalker. So this has a lot of stuff that will tie in going forward in the series. Our introduction to the Kawachi Caves, and there's a lot of stuff that ties in a bunch later on.
They do a lot of foreshadowing in the season,
Yeah, I think they were setting up stuff, hoping that they could get to it later on in the series, which they end up doing. Because I believe even the little bracelet thing comes back way, way, way down the line, doesn't it?
Yeah, I believe Lois ends up getting it.
Yeah. So that was one of the best things about the series is that they don't forget. The callbacks are aplenty. But this episode is basically fairly simple plot-wise. Clark and Pete magically have dirt bikes that we've never seen before.
Yeah, I was like, did Jonathan and Martha pay for those?
Did they rent them for the day borrow them from Lex? It was so weird and such a weird intro.
I think we shouldn't read it too much into it.
No, it was a plot device to get. So they are driving. They see that there's a construction site. The foreman is letting everybody out of work. And then we start on the night before. The foreman lets everybody out. And then there's the Joseph Willowbrook comes and is like, I can't be trespassing my people on land. He ushers them off. I guess he files a complaint about it that we don't see. And then he is attacked first we hear a creature moving, and then he ends up being attacked by a wolf who scratches him and bites at him. He's filling up his truck with gas at the time, so that's overflowing. He pulled out a flare gun as a defense weapon, and while
he fires it up, and the wolf sees that the flare is going to come down, backs off,
and the biggest explosion ever goes off, like a nuclear bomb almost.
Yeah, that was a mighty big explosion.
That entire place should be rubble with the level of explosion. They've blown up cars. This time they blew up everything. Gas is flammable, but gas doesn't explode like that.
It would just create a big fire.
Yeah, and it's in a construction site. So there's nothing else to burn except for the car. But yeah, the entire place is epic level explosions.
Yeah, the generator blows up. The trailer blows up. I'm surprised that this didn't cause a cave-in in the Kawachi Caves.
Yep. So this following the next day, we get the dirt bikes. Basically, Pete and Clark are oh, something happened. It's no shit. That a bomb went off there. But everyone's kind of meh, the guy died.
Hey, I'll race you to this place.
Exactly. They split up, of course, and Clark hits a tree because even though he's Superman, he can't see a downed tree. Hits it, flips over his handlebars, and then falls through the ground in a terrible. The initial effect of him, the ground breaking, is so bad because it's definitely him hitting a mattress with dirt on it, or whoever the stuntman, and then they just cut to the hole, the earth opening up underneath, and him just bouncing off of the walls and falling to the ground 100 feet down, as we are told. And then we are now met with the other main character of this episode, Kyla, who comes in and rips his shirt open, because that's what you do.
Because that's what you do with a 15-year-old.
Yes. He's got to be 16 at this point, so they're sophomores. But, and because she's also supposed to be that age too. Because she says she goes to another town's high school. I don't remember what town it was though. But she's oh, you're fine. And then there's oh crap, above us there's all these things that my grandfather's been looking for his whole life. So we see a ton of cave paintings, and what Clark notices, which will be an important thing going throughout the season and series,
an octagonal imprint,
yes, in the wall, similar to the disc from the ship. So Clark realizes holy crap, this is a thing. Kyla is well, you're not hurt, so that's really weird. And then
Oh yeah, the best part, Pete says, "Can you you okay? Can you jump out of there?" And Clark is like,
I'm not alone.
Yeah, I have company. I have guests, or I'm not alone down here."
He's like, oh, he's really funny. That's like his response to it. And I believe this is when. So Kyla tells him that her grandfather is Joseph. And then they start looking at the painting and she begins to tell him the story, the legend of Naman. Oh, no, she doesn't tell him the story yet. They just like that this is what they were looking for. So they then leave.
Well, she meant. You wait. Yeah.
Yes. He notices the octagonal thing and then they leave. This is when Clark tells Jonathan about it. And he's very skeptical. And then Jonathan shows him the ship's heart that he pulled out before the ship closed that has symbols on it, which match the symbols in the cave. And Clark basically kind of comes up with the idea of like, well, maybe they can translate them. And then we get and I invited them to dinner tonight. Like this girl I just met and her grandfather who I have not met. But they're Native Americans, so they should be nice, right?
Yeah, there's no way we're going to screw them over.
Nope. I'll get to it, but like the way Kyla is dressed is like...
Yeah.
But we'll get to it at the end. So basically at the dinner, they kind of say how Luthor Corp is trying to put like a thing there and they're just going to destroy the caves.
Plaza or corporate plaza.
And like Clark's like, oh, maybe you can speak to him, Mom, because you work for Lionel. And she's like, well, it's kind of like a hard thing because it's going to make thousands of jobs there.
Yeah, Martha is sort of sides with the Luthors.
Yep. And Jonathan is super uncomfortable and asks if anybody wants coffee with their pie.
Yeah.
So then we go to Clark. He's using his telescope to look at the stars. Kayla's like, oh, let me show you the constellations.
And he points out where Krypton would be.
Yes, because it is the wolf without an eye. And then while they're doing this, they're like holding hands. Like she's in front of Clark, I believe. And his hand, like her hands are like wrapped around his. So they are extremely affectionate, especially for Clark. This is like the most affectionate we ever see him this early on.
And then Lana awkwardly shows up.
Yes. Well, she does say like, oh, Clark asked her to get her there quick, like told her to get her there. So she just came over. And he's basically like, hey, could you ask your maybe dad to get all like hippie crazy and help us? And she's like, okay, we weren't really talking, but sure. And from there, we go to the mansion and Sheriff Miller says that Joseph Willowbrook's been involved in civil disobedience and that they are investigating him in connection with the foreman's death. And Lionel...
No, the sheriffs don't even... I don't think the sheriffs get a line in. Lionel gives us exposition to Martha.
Oh, yes. Well, Lionel is very much an exposition dump machine a lot of times.
And he also says... Did we get another awkward moment with when Lionel says to Martha, you know, when I hear she says, when I'm talking to you, it feels a lot like I'm talking to my wife. And then Lex comes in.
Oh, they definitely have like an eye-making scene right there.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it's foreshadowing, even though it kind of ends up being in a way. But I don't think they ever planned for such a thing. With Martha, I think it's very one-sided.
Dude, it gets really weird next season. I think either next season or season 4.
Yeah, because Lionel is definitely into her. Because she challenges him, which no one ever does. So yeah, Lex comes in and Lionel asks him to be a partner, but Lex refuses. And Lionel laments the situation and basically like, oh, maybe we should have done this project in Granville. That is where Kyla goes to school. She goes to school in Granville.
Yeah, and there's also a really nice Lex moment where he says, he makes some remark about sentimentality being a mark of vulnerability. I don't know, just the way he said it was a sign of his intelligence.
Mm-hmm. From here, though, we go back to the Kawachi Caves, which we'll be visiting all of the time now. And this is where we get the story from Kyla to Clark that is depicted on the cave walls. So basically, Naman is a being who fell with who was prophesized to come, that would come from like a burning sky, like bring fire crashing down and be super strong and vulnerable and be able to shoot fire out of his eyes. He also had a brother named Sigith who would turn against him. on the wall, which for the very long time, I believe is supposed to be, it's obviously implied to be Lex. But correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they later kind of retcon this to actually be Doomsday.
I believe so.
Yeah, because in the image, they're like two heads on one body. So they like both came here together, as opposed to what they're obviously implying this early on, which they definitely like kind of fudge some stuff to make that fit. And then we see the picture of the woman, and Kayla's like, oh, the woman is who is like his soulmate. And then there's like a item around her waist, and then it's the same as the bracelet that she is wearing.
And she jokingly, or she says that it's not that, this is nothing, it's been passed down from generation to generation, as is the story of Naman.
Mm-hmm.
And they also mention that Naman actually came to Earth prior and flew back to.
Yeah, I can't remember if they say it's the Mon or like somebody else came there and then fell in love with a woman.
And love with the matriarch of that tribe.
And they also gave them meteor rocks, like she says, like green rocks.
Yeah, that they apparently meteor rocks can create Skinwalkers.
Yes.
But we don't find that out till a little bit later.
While this is going on, the bulldozers cause a vibration. Kayla falls. Clark super speeds down, catches her, and then a boulder comes down from the ceiling, and Clark protects her. So she sees that his power. She guesses that he's the Mon. He basically is like, I don't know what I am. And then they make out. And she's not weirded out by the situation.
Actually, she's turned on by it.
Yes, definitely. She is like, if there are making eyes, she's only making eyes this whole episode at Clark. And from here, we cut to the Talon, and it's Lana talking to Henry Small, and he's like, I'm glad that you reached out to me. I got the test back, and you are my daughter. And basically,
he says we share the same DNA. She says, so it's true, or so you really are my father. He says, I don't think I've deserved that, or I don't think I've earned that title yet, which I really like, which was a really good way to go about the whole process.
Yes.
Compared to their first meeting, where he just didn't want to be involved.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think as we go through in the season, he definitely is much more interesting character. And he is, like, I like the actor. I think he does a good job with this very small role. And it is a good story for Lana compared to a lot of the other stuff that they've had her do so far.
And the stuff that they're going to make her do.
Yeah. From here, we cut back to the construction site, and Joseph basically calls Martha a wolf in sheep's clothing. Henry Small arrives with a cease and desist order. While this is going on, the sheriff shows up and arrests Joseph for the murder. That they found like a towel with blood on it that matched the victims, and Joseph accused Lionel of framing him. This is where we kind of jump back and forth really quick between scenes. So we get a quick scene of Clark showing up with Chloe, this is where Chloe goes to the Talon, and basically her and Lana are like, so, like, Clark is like really all up into Kayla, and he's never opens up to anybody. He's like really done it quick. And then Chloe basically is like, oh yeah, and you wrote a letter to Whitney. I saw that on the table this morning.
Again,
setting up
foreshadowing next episode.
Yes. And then we jump back. Clark is now at the Luthor Mansion again. He's asking Lex to bail out Joseph.
And we get his reasoning, or we get Clark's reasoning for, or his take, or his opinion on why, or his opinion on destiny.
Yeah, because he basically goes to Lex and's like, "Have you ever met someone that you just felt like you've been destined to be with?" And Lex's response is, "You're talking to someone who's been fighting his destiny his entire life."
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's, or yeah, it is with Lex.
Yes.
Lex asks Clark, I thought you liked Lana, but Clark then says, it's there's something about when the person reciprocates.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what he says. It's like, yeah, there's something different when the person reciprocates your feelings. Which is kind of not true, because Lana definitely is into him. She's just like passive about it, while Kyla is very aggressive about it. Which it fits Clark's personality much better, since he's very passive in this show with relationships. But he also is able to convince Lex to go to the cave, saying that like if he goes there, he'll see why they need to be saved. Which he basically is doing this because Lex knows about the octagonal thing. Although none of this is said, I feel like it's very evident he knows that if he shows him that and he sees the octagonal pattern, he'll do whatever he can to save the caves. Did you read that the same as me or differently?
I don't think I saw, or I don't think I saw that so much as. Wait, you're talking about the scene where Clark and Lex go into the caves?
Yeah, because they go like right from here to the caves. And basically Clark like kind of leaves him exactly where the octagonal thing is and is staring at him. Clark is staring at Lex looking at it. So I guess to me it read as that Clark knew if he brought him there, that Lex would find that item, like that spot, which it's not hard to find, and his interest in it would be piqued, and he would go full force into protecting it because he knew it was important.
I actually looked at it as Lex like wanting to protect it for like he makes a comparison to like these caves are more but he makes a connection to caves in another area.
Yes, he does do that. But he does like a thing when he him putting his hand into the indentation was what like I got from it. And not just that, like the way Clark was looking at him is what gave me that impression. But maybe I was looking at it too hard or seeing too much.
Well, Clark, Lex, and Lionel end up end up in a spot where they're sort of interchangeable, like desperately looking for, or in a spot where Clark is trying to hide the
disc thing.
The disc. Lex is interested in it, and Lionel desperately wants to find the disc and see what happens. Because, well, I'm not going to say that, give the reason because it's a major spoiler.
Yeah. We'll get to that episode, but we get to see a little bit of this beginning tension with information in this episode, and like a little bit. But from this spot with Lex in the Kawachi cave, we go to the Talon, and this is where they're raising money to help get Joseph out of jail. And Martha shows up, and Joseph is adamant that he's being set up, and he's offended that Martha continues to defend the Luthor Corp. Then we get our 5 seconds in the torch where basically Chloe is like, here's how things happen. And this is where we get the whole Skinwalker really quick explanation. Because Skinwalkers are like a very...
They're
mythological...
Native American mythological creature that can shift between a human... or shift from a human into an animal.
Yeah, it's like a werewolf, but they can be anything. But they don't turn into like a humanoid version. They actually turn into that animal.
Yeah.
It's an animality.
And for the rest of the episode, Clark is convinced that it's Joseph.
Yeah, it's so obvious, like, what it is, though. Like, you're just like, Clark, you're being dumb the entire time. But I believe, so from here, we go between, like, 2 scenes, which is basically Martha gets attacked by a wolf while she's in her car. Then we cut to the house. Clark telling his dad about his feelings for Kayla, but he thinks that she's not telling him the whole truth, especially about the foreman's death. And then Martha comes in and basically is like, I was just attacked by a wolf. Oh, the other thing that Chloe dumps is that the autopsy said that he had bite marks that matched a wolf, which wolves have not been in Smallville for 90 years. The next morning, Lionel is upset with Lex because he bailed out Joseph, and he complains that the project is a public relations nightmare. X offers to buy him out dollar for dollar because he wants to preserve the case, but Lionel guesses that Lex knows something that he doesn't. Kyla goes to the farm and talks with Clark, and Clark basically...
He accuses Joseph, or he asks if she knows anything. He accuses Joseph of being a Skinwalker. Then, okay, was I alone in thinking that she went from normal to manic?
Oh, she definitely had I got my hand caught in the cookie jar kind of reaction.
Yeah.
It was like a how dare you, and got overly defensive. Kind of similar to what a reaction we'll see in the next episode, I think.
Yeah.
So from here, we cut to the Luthor mansion. Lionel's pouring himself a drink. and a white wolf attacks Lionel. Clark intervenes. When security arrives and they're going to shoot it, Clark says no. The wolf jumps through the glass window, and there's blood.
It's not as straightforward as that. We get an awesome shot of Lionel sitting down, or then he hears something and he gets up, and the shot is of the door that
With the scratching and stuff and the banging.
Yeah,
it's very horror movie-esque. And then we hear like 50 different wolves howling, even though it's just one.
Yeah, and before you know it, they cut to Lionel, like, very close to the wolf.
Yeah, he looks up and it's like in the kind of loft area, and then he turns and goes towards the pool table, and then the wolf's on the pool table. The wolf kind of teleports around because it goes from being outside the room to inside the room, and then from upstairs to the table without moving.
Yeah, and it claws at him, right?
Yeah, it scratches his face, and that's when Clark shows up and starts yelling Joseph at it, and then stops and makes eye contact. And that's when the security comes in, and before they can shoot, Clark stops them, and the wolf jumps through the window. The big stained glass window. There's blood all over it. Clark kind of rushes through, and then he finds the wolf bleeding in the woods. And then the wolf turns into Kayla, who is naked. Clark covers her with his jacket, and then she basically says, "I'm sorry. Like, I should have told you. Kind of. You're the only person I thought I could tell my secret to because you had your own secret. I wasn't going to hurt anybody," and blah, and dies. So this is our second person in 3 episodes that dies on Clark that he has deep feelings for. And so we get a kind of quick wrap up at the end. So the construction site is stopped because Clark is there. Martha sides with Clark. Then Joseph shows up with the Native Americans and basically has a moment with Clark and is like, "You did everything you could. She believed in you, so do I." And he gives Clark the bracelet. And then Lex arrives and tells Lionel that in light of the petition, the state of Kansas has named it like a historical artifact amendment.
And they're going to pay him 30 cents on the dollar.
Yes, and that LexCorp will get the contract to secure the area for the preservation. And then the very end is Lana goes to the loft, consoles Clark, and then also tells him that Whitney is missing in action, which directly leads into our second episode. And before that, we can talk about a couple of things in this one. First off, Kayla's outfit is so stereotypical, it is ridiculous. She just doesn't have a feather in her hair. Like, she's in so much beatery. Like, it is ridiculous. And the actress is amazing. Like, she is gorgeous. She's been in a ton of things.
Like what?
She's like one of those like character actresses. I'm pulling up her IMDb right now. So it is Tamara Feldman.
Wait, is she Jew?
She's born in Wichita, Kansas. I don't know. Wow, she is.
Because I have to say that is the tannest Jew I've ever seen.
So she's been in. So this is her first role, actually, on her IMDb.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so she was on Boston Legal, Monk, Supernatural. She was in Hatchet.
Wait, who'd she play on Supernatural?
A character named Angela Mason.
Arlen would know.
Yeah. She was in like an episode of CSI. She was in the show Dirty Sexy Money, Royal Pains, One Tree Hill, Gossip Girl, Strange Angel. She's in a lot of those like shows that CW used to kind of do,
before
but like
became Dare to Defy.
Yes, so like the TNT kind of USA type TV shows.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thank God that era is over. Now it's just all comic book shows.
Yes. Well, those shows still exist. They just don't exist on those channels anymore. They kind of actually exist on regular network TV.
We don't talk about Gotham.
But this episode also has like one of the best soundtracks of any of the episodes we've ever done. It has like Nora Jones, The Vines, Santana. It has Mad World, which is a great song at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm trying to think, is there anything that you have to say about this episode?
It was obviously an introduction to something that will pay off later on. And I'm starting to get recollections of mainly the Christopher Reeve episode.
Yeah, that's coming up fairly soon because that happens when Clark he heat visions like Kryptonian on the barn, right?
Yeah, and where or where or because the cave is calling to him. And this season's where we get the first of Jor-El.
Yes, we do.
And I actually have some fun facts for when we get to that.
Oh, okay. This was also the mid-season finale of this season.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because episode 11 was mid-January of 03.
Yeah, this was November 26th. So yeah, this is interesting, the time difference of when mid-season breaks are now. But yeah, this was a fairly good episode, fairly dark. So we had like a really dark episode, a kind of light, goofy one, and then a dark episode. And the next episode is also really dark.
Well, there's some goofy stuff.
Yeah, oh, there definitely is. But did you want to do an MVP, LVP, favorite scene, least favorite scene?
Yeah, MVP, Clark.
I would have to agree. He's very. This is a very heavy Clark episode with almost nobody else.
I was gonna say I was gonna joke and my LVP, but that is actually it's actually for the next episode. But
yeah, the only person in this episode that I think was not great was actually the foreman in the beginning. Was a little much.
Yeah, that was some cheesy acting.
Yeah, but I don't think there were any scenes that I necessarily didn't like or that I thought could be cut out. I thought everything worked really well with each other.
The only thing I kind of wanted was more screen time for Lionel or at least Lex, because they're A+ like talent.
Yeah, the only thing is like if you give them more time, then you take away time from Kayla.
Yeah,
And she has so little time in this episode to try to make that relationship have any meaning. They really should have stretched this out into like a 3-episode arc.
Yeah,
to give her like relationship with Clark a lot more weight, and kind of had it be like a kind of C plot running throughout several episodes. I think that would have worked a lot better than this, especially considering what we get in the next episode.
Yeah,
which I think we could transition to. So our second episode is Visage. So this is where we get this episode starts off real goofy. And it's basically Clark is helping Lana at the Talon. I guess there's an apartment in the Talon.
Yeah.
Which, and her there's like a leak, so Clark is trying to fix it. It makes it worse. They both get covered in water. Lana leaves to go get a wrench. He heat visions the leak to seal it, which I guess that's how plumbing works. So now basically if she ever needs repair, someone needs to like cut it with a saw to fix that, because they basically welded it together. And basically my joke was in the beginning, the Clark gone wild, because it's literally Lana staring at a wet t-shirt Clark, because he's in a white shirt, and just checking him out real hard. And then basically Clark kind of subtly flirts with her, basically saying he misses her living across the street. And then
he jokes about the
cat,
the current residence.
Yep, with the orange cat.
Yeah, he has. I mean, in the last episode, or no, there's pretty much no there's really no more use for his
peeping Tom telescope.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unless he wants to check out that cat.
Exactly. Clark, for some reason, brings up Whitney because plot. And basically, Lana says that she doesn't know how to feel because he hasn't written her he's been missing for over a month, because we learned in the last episode that he is missing in action. And the military sent back his personal effects, including her meteor rock necklace, which she says that she won't wear again until they see her, or until she sees him. And then we cut to Indonesia, which I don't think we were in any sort of conflict in Indonesia at this time, or ever. But that is where Whitney is running around with the Marines. We have him in commando gear running around with 3 comrades. They have him talk about Lana, and they're basically like, shut up, I don't want to hear about Lana and horses and Smallville ever again. Then there's some explosions. We see his buddies kind of disappear behind an explosion, and he runs back towards him, and that's where it gets cut. So we go back to school the next day. Pete and Chloe are upset. This is really goofy that like they find out that Alexander Graham Bell didn't really invent the telephone, that he just like took the idea.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Betsy Ross with the flag. Clark asked Lana to go to the Winter Festival with him, but says she can't because she's taking extra shifts at the Talon. And he basically is like, don't work yourself to death to cope with worrying over Whitney. And then the doors bust open, and we get a long shot of Whitney in his service blues, strutting his stuff, John Travolta style, down the hallway, and basically right to Lana, and everybody's like cheering and everything. Back at home, Clark
I don't know why, but that scene made me think of Airplane.
Oh, yeah, it's very corny. That's why I said it's very like strutting his stuff down the hallway. It's very oh man, what's the Richard Gere movie that's very famous?
Pretty Woman?
No, the one where he's like, because I got nowhere else to go. And then he goes into like the thing at the end and picks up the woman and carries her out. Is it like Officer and a Gentleman?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Lou Gossett Jr.'s in it.
Yeah, that's why I said it's reminding me of that scene. It reminded me of a scene from Airplane because it was spoofing that.
Yes. Okay, yeah, so we're on the same page. Yeah, it is a really goofy, like, over-the-top scene.
Is that thing where he also takes a woman and kisses her?
Yes.
Yeah. And they did a further parody in that awful film, Ted.
Oh, I don't mind Ted, but okay.
Oh, wait, no, I got it wrong. That awful film, Ted 2.
I did not see Ted 2 because I thought it would be bad.
It was.
Just like I'm sure Anchorman 2 was bad. I never saw that.
It was a mockery of CNN.
Okay. So to get back to the story, from here, we go back to the house. Clark tells his parents that Whitney returned, but he admits that he's kind of annoyed that he's back because he was getting close to Lana. And Jonathan basically is like, hey, douche. Like, he left to go fight a war. And he deserves to be, like, welcome home as a hero. Because this is, like, this is, like, what, like, this is, like, year 2 after 9/11. So, like, that's still kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah, which again, I don't know why he's in Indonesia. I guess they didn't want to put him in the Middle East. Or it's easier to mimic like a tropical location in Vancouver rather than a desert.
Yeah.
So Lana and Whitney are catching up at his house. And basically this is where we get he's missing memories. So he does not remember the video. So he still thinks they're together. And then we get the scene that mirrored the scene of the last episode, which is Lex confronting Dr. Helen, which this was a weird scene in this episode.
Yes, it was.
It's super out of place. Basically, he's just like, she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm late for our date. I had a patient have a heart attack, and I don't think that he was going to take that I have a date as an excuse. And Lex is just like dead facing her. And she's like, okay, what's wrong? Like, I said I was sorry. You could at least said, like, did he survive? Because he did. And he just basically throws photos out of her meeting with his father. And it's like, I thought you said you never talked to him. And she's like, oh, you had someone spying me? He's like, no, I have someone spying on my father. And goes through a whole list of, like, she has money in her account. He's been investigating her since this. And she gets indignant and storms out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is a very awkward scene to be in the middle of the rest of this episode. All right, so from here, we cut to the welcome back party at the Talon. Is that the Talon or is that the coffee shop?
The Talon, because they...
Oh, yeah, we never talk about the other coffee shop anymore. It's just the Talon now.
Yeah.
Whitney seems really weird, and he's not interested in football. He's not interested in doing an interview with Chloe. And Lana tells Clark that she can't go to the festival with him. Whitney asks, what's that about? He gets upset, goes to the bathroom, splashes water on his face, which anytime I see now, I just think of, which I know you haven't really listened to, How Does This Get Made? Like podcast. But it's like a thing that they talk about in like movies people do that don't do in real life necessarily, which is splashing water on their face.
Yeah, because...
It's like a very movie cliche thing.
Who does that?
I've done it once, and technically I think there's like scientific reasoning behind it. Like it creates like cold water, like tricks your body into thinking it's you like falling into a river. So it gives you like an adrenaline spike. But it's definitely like a cliche thing. But even more cliche, Whitney goes full Hulk and rips a door off of a like a toilet stall, and throws it as Clark is walking in and accuses him of taking Lana. And Clark's like, what the hell? And is like, how did you do that? And Whitney's response is, I'm a fully trained Marine, and then just walks out.
Yeah, that scene. I kind of laughed at that scene.
Yeah, this is where we get the crazy face Whitney. If you see any images from this episode, is from him in the mirror, which is kind of funny because this is the most this actor's ever been given in this show, and he's not even playing the character that he's. So the next day, before Clark is going to approach Lana, but she basically is mad at him. Guess why? Whitney basically flipped the whole thing, flipped it and reversed it on Clark. And Clark's like, haven't you learned your lesson from every other time I've told you something is wrong and someone's weird? Nope, apparently you haven't, so you're still going to be a dick to me and not believe me.
You know, I'm just, as I've said, I'm trying to picture Eric Johnson in my head, but I'm just picturing Charlie Hunnam.
No, he looks like a skinnier, less goateed.
No, not goatee. I'm not him from Sons of Anarchy. Him from Undeclared.
Oh, okay. I don't know why. I always think of Charlie Hunnam as just being like giant beard or goatee. I guess because most of the thing I remember him from is like the terrible ads for the terrible King Arthur movie. That was terrible. Because they pumped out those ads so hard. Kind of like how they were doing for that Robin Hood movie. Oh, did you even know that came out already? The one with Jamie Foxx?
Did it bomb?
Yeah. Like mega hard. John Carpenter of Mars did.
Oh no.
Yeah. Or it could King Arthur, whatever that thing was. The
Jude Law. Yeah.
Yeah. It was terrible.
I mean, not Jude Law. Albus Dumbledore.
Oh yeah. Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen either of those movies. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan. Like, I like it. I don't love it.
I recently rewatched episode 1. Not episode 1. I'm thinking of Star Wars.
The Philosopher's Stone?
Yeah, and they mentioned the whole Grindelwald thing in that briefly, like in a throwaway.
Yes. Those first couple movies are a lot different, though, because they're definitely more kids' movies.
Yeah, those were and I kind of only own the first two because I preferred, like Arlen, I don't like change.
Oh, they kind of had to make a change because the actor died.
Richard Harris passed away.
You could like go to his grave and yell at it and be like, "Why did you die, Dumbledore?"
Oh, I'm sure someone's done that.
I don't know. They're fine movies. I'm just like, there's just so many things in it that I'm just like, when you have a movie that's based around kids being the heroes, like, there's just so many things that I don't like in that. But, which is kind of funny because we are talking about a show where the kid is a hero. But at least he's in high school in this.
Yeah, and he's played by a 25-year-old.
Yeah.
No, 23-year-old.
Yeah, because they're all fairly young. Rosenbaum's the only one that's like significantly older. But from here, we get the first scene of what the hell is going on, which is a Marine. The Marines show up at the Fordman's house. So it's a car, but it looks like that there's several people there, but only one guy comes out. And he's coming there to talk to Whitney's mom, and she like invites him in. And then he's like, "Oh, I'm here about Whitney." Or she's like, "Oh, are you here to see Whitney?" He's like, "Wait, what?" And then Whitney comes around the corner, and he's like, "Wait, you can't be here." And Whitney's holding a baseball bat, and then cracks him in the bat, and totally Negans him in front of his mom.
And then ties his mom up.
Yes. And she's just screaming in horror. Then Whitney goes to Lana at the horse, wherever, and her horse is named Heisman, which is hilarious, and notices she's wearing the necklace again, and asks if they can move in together. And she's like, "No, we can't." And he's like, "Is it because of Clark?" And then we leave that scene. Then we have the Clark and Lex meeting, and Lex is venting about the situation, and they bring up the PTSD. And then, then we cut back to, I'm going to stick with like these crazy Whitney things because they're the most interesting parts of the story.
Yeah.
Whitney has his mom tied up to a chair.
Oh yeah, screaming, "What radio station do I like?"
It's like, if Lana gets in the car and it's not the right radio station, she's gonna know something's up. What is it? And she's like, "I don't know. It's like the Screaming Rock one. You have like stickers on some old books." But Clark rings the doorbell and basically is like, "Hey, like, I was talking to Lex and he thought there's Doctor," and basically Whitney's like, "Get the hell out of here. Stop trying to steal Lana. I don't want your help." And
pushes Clark away with like a couple fingers.
Yeah, like Clark goes from like the porch, like across the lawn.
Yeah, and then when he shuts the door, Clark X-ray visions and sees a bunch of green in the spinal area, and then logical conclusion, Whitney shifts into Tina Greer,
Yes.
my most hated character of this whole show.
Oh, really? You hate her character?
Oh my god, she's so fucking terrible.
Which, to remind everybody, this character is played by Lizzie Kaplan.
Yeah, I love Lizzie Kaplan in practically everything.
But yeah, well, it's a really, especially in this episode, they took this character like off the goddamn rails because this has like weird, like,
oh my god, she shifts into so many people.
And like so in the first time she was obsessed with Lana in a I want to be her, and now she's in a like I want to be with her. So it's this weird, crazy, gay psycho thing. Like it's real weird. And then but she would choose to be a guy as long as she could be with Lana. Except that she also does the thing, which we'll get to in a minute, which was also like real weird. But I did notice, so when he x-rayed her skeleton, there's actually no jawbone. And like the skeleton looks different. It looks humanoid, but not human. So I guess it's kind of like a way to make it make sense how she could change her like musculature and stuff. But this is where we get to Clark goes to the torch, of course, to Chloe, because Chloe's the one who figures out how everything is going on. But he basically is like, hey, I think Whitney isn't Whitney. He's actually Tina. Chloe's like, that's impossible. Tina killed herself last week in a hospital by burning herself alive. And Clark's like, did they check dental records? And Chloe's like, bum, bum, bum. So Clark and Pete. Yeah. It's definitely, that was like a commercial cut, like after that. So Pete and Clark are going, and he's just like, and Tina knows the secret because I had to use it, and she knows about the kryptonite or meteor rocks as well. And Lana pops up and is like, what's going on? And Clark's like, oh, Pete, why don't you hang out with Lana while I go check on the thing? And this is where...
And then, it's Tina Greer.
It's Tina Greer, but she doesn't change. She instead, like, choke slams Pete up against the locker, lifting him...
Oh, and then just fucking kills him.
Oh my god, he's so dead. Yeah,
how is he alive?
She picks him when she's like choking him. He's like 4 feet in the air, like off the ground.
Yeah,
like I know he's short, but he's like way up above the lockers.
She then throws him skull first into a locker, which you can see makes a dent,
and he's bleeding from his forehead. Like he's dead.
What the fuck?
I saw it. I started cracking up because I was like, "Oh my god, concussion!" And then when they showed him his like head, I was like, "Oh no, he's dead." Oh my god! This is like terrible. This is like the 8th. We were just praising it. This is like the 8th time Pete has been hit on the head. He definitely has CTE in the future.
And no wonder he didn't last long on Blue Mountain State.
Yes. All right. Oh man.
Hey, I just had to get a reference in.
Yeah. So, oh my god. Oh, okay, yeah. Tina goes to the town as Whitney and asks Lana to marry him, and she's like, no. I basically tells him I broke up with you and all this stuff, and he's like, can I have the necklace to remember you by? Duh, because he's going to attack Clark. So then we have Tina pretending to be Jonathan, subdues Clark because he has the necklace on, throws him in the storm cellar, puts the necklace on him. She says like, oh, you must have gotten powers during the meteor shower too, ties him up.
Well, no, it's not. First, it's a scene between Clark and quote-unquote Jonathan, and then just a dumb grin.
Oh yeah, you're right. And then they just cut to the storm cellar.
Yeah, to him falling down.
She like throws him down the storm cellar,
and then Tina decides that since Lana likes Clark, she's gonna become Clark, which I liked Welling's performance.
Oh, I thought it was great.
Yeah. When iFanboy did like a special, like one of their special editions on Smallville, they mentioned that Tom Welling, mentioned that Tom Welling was really like was great when he was either affected by something or doing something, or when he wasn't playing
Clark,
when he wasn't just simply Clark.
Yeah, because they saw it when we had the Red Kryptonite episode. Like he's awesome in that.
Yeah, it shows off that he can do different things. He can do.
Yeah, he was like kind of almost becoming like a hot Hollywood guy for a minute. Like he did Cheaper by the Dozen, and he did a couple other movies, and like it just didn't stick. Maybe he was just like too big, or because he was. I don't know.
It was the George Reeves effect.
Yeah, people didn't see him outside of Superman, because everything I've seen him in outside of it, he's been great. Like I've told you before, he was the villain in season. Like he's not the villain; he's an antagonist.
No. Yeah, he's an antagonist in Lucifer.
Yeah, and he's awesome in it, and he's also goddamn gigantic. He is a brick shit house.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the episode of Smallville with Superboy?
Oh yeah, I've seen all the episodes, so yes.
Lucas Grabeel he's kind of like, he's pretty tall. Clark Walling looks like a mountain, or he looks like a skyscraper compared to him.
Yeah, he's like 6'4" or 6'5" or something like that. Which would be funny, because if he did appear on another show, he would dwarf everybody. And we can save that till after this one. So we have a little bit left. So yeah. Tina leads him in the storm cellar. Lex confronts the doctor, and she basically tells him to piss off and leaves. Clark is trying...
Oh, wait, no. What I thought happened ends up happening later on.
Yes, they have one more scene later on. Yeah, this is the first attempt for Lex to be apologetic, and she wants none of it and leaves. Then we cut back to the storm cellar. Clark is like trying to do something, and then the ship lights up, and then shoots out like a blast, and then the kryptonite turns clear. And then Jonathan shows up, and Clark basically is like, I have to go save Lana, and the ship
Doesn't he have a gun with him, too?
Jonathan does, yes.
Like a rifle?
Yes, he's full Red Dead. And then I
wonder what level Deadeye he is.
Maximum. Hey, he shot Clark in the face once.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
But the ship, we get 2 shots of the ship. 2 shots, that's the same shot of the ship, like, simmering or smoking.
Yeah, it's sort of like a...
I would say it's like...
It looks like an electronic that had some liquid spilled on it.
Yeah, it's like it's like smoking. That's perfect. Like kind of an electronics smoking, like burnt out.
Yeah, like a motherboard that accidentally got soda poured on it.
Yes. So now we get to another really weird scene in this episode, which is Tina's going through Lana's clothes and then morphs into Chloe.
No, she's not just going through her clothes.
She's
sniffing her clothes.
It's not just her clothes. I believe it's her like
nightwear.
Yes, it's not underwear, but it's definitely like a nightgown.
That would be they would get in trouble for that.
Yes, but then basically is trying to pimp out Clark to Lana, and then Lana's like, what about your relationship with Clark? And she's like, oh, and then she makes a move on Lana as Chloe, and like kind of saunters up to her and like kind of kisses at her neck, and then Lana's like, what the hell is going on? And Chloe's like, oh, sorry. Like, I don't know. I'm being weird. And runs away. It's just such a weird scene. Just to be like, oh, the teenage boys will really like this kind of pseudo creepy, maybe lesbian action. Like, it was just so unnecessary. But I guess it's trying to show how unhinged Tina is. Which it is kind of funny because, what's her name? Lizzie Kaplan's only in like 3 scenes in this entire episode.
Yeah, she's in the scene with,
Whitney's mom.
With Whitney's mom.
The storm cellar, and then like the last shot, basically.
Yeah.
So she was there for like 2 days. So somehow Lana, after they leave that scene, Lana's at the Talon, and Tina shows up as Clark and basically confesses his love for her. And he starts to be like...
and they start kissing...
but forcefully kind of pushing it.
Yeah, in the Talon, and then Clark storms in, and Lana's like, what the fuck?
Yes, so we have our Clark in red, Tina Clark in the
season 1.
Yes,
outfit.
The khaki jacket. Lana recoils and is like, calling her a freak, who is still not changed, though, still Tom Welling. And Tina chucks her across the room, knocking her out, or, she's dead as well. Also, definitely has a ton of concussions and CTE at this point, because she's been hit on the head every other episode.
Yeah, or at least a spinal injury.
So then Tina throws Clark through a door. They battle in the alley. Tina throws Clark through the greenhouse. Clark does his Pandiv, laying down sidekick, and kicks Tina through the roof of the greenhouse. This is where Tina grabs, a pipe to hit Clark with, and he, dodges. And then he drops the pipe. Then she picks up a engine block or something out of the back of a car.
Yeah.
Still as Clark, though. So this is all, I keep saying Tina, but it's Tom Welling. So Tina Welling goes to throw it at Clark. Clark super speeds out of the way.
And she impales herself.
She impales herself through the chest.
Goes through her heart.
Yes. So, like, yeah, like right into the middle of her chest. So she changes from Welling to...
Back to Tina,
and then is like, take care of Lana, bleh, and dies.
It reminds me, have you ever seen Death Wish 3?
Yes, a long time ago.
It reminds me of the opening of the movie where when Charles Bronson comes to the... He shows up to his dying friends... or his friend's place who is about to die from being beaten to death by the creeps.
Ah, yes. The start of every Death Wish movie.
And he's just like, take care of my things, and dies. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. It's terrible. So Jonathan brings Clark home, and they tell... I think it's Martha that's there, and they're like, oh, what's going on? How's Mrs. Fordman? They're like, she's making a recovery, but the Marine that came there to tell her that they found Whitney's remains, that he had died in combat. And Clark basically says...
Well, he mentions that the Marine that Tina killed was going to,
Yes, which is why he had the reaction of, like, you shouldn't be here. You're a dead man. So...
yeah.
So in that beginning scene that we saw Whitney, he died. So she has both been traumatized by her son that wasn't her son, and then found out that he's actually dead. And basically Clark ponders whether or not, if he didn't have his powers, like, could he go and do what Whitney did, which is a very, like, salute the troops moment in this episode. Kind of our second one of this episode.
Well, it reminds me, did you ever see the cover for the DC 9/11 tribute?
Yes.
Where it's Superman with a word balloon saying "whoa," and they're all like, most of the Justice League are all tiny, and the firefighters and cops and everything are all giant.
Yeah, this is definitely like a very like
it's as if they tried to do something based on that.
Yeah, it's like, it's very weird though that they kind of, in order to do this thing with Whitney, and they wrap like this in this kind of like patriotic sentiment in this crazy Tina Greer story. It's a very wonky episode, but it's dark. Like, this whole idea is dark. So we have what I would say is like one of the 5 or 6 biggest characters in the series, especially in season 1, killed off screen, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's not off screen because we got that early bit, but we have him die. So this is 3 out of the last 4 episodes where Clark has someone close to him die that he could do nothing about, that he could not save.
I know Ryan and
Kayla in the last episode that we covered.
Okay.
Yeah. This is where we get back to the weird B plot, which is Lex and his girlfriend.
Who she reveals that Lionel offered her money to break up with Lex. She said no, but he still gave it to her.
Yeah, and Lex is basically like, I'm sorry, I was raised like in this shitty household. I don't want to become my father. I'm sorry, give me another chance. And they leave hand in hand.
Which I liked.
Yes, it was just like that subplot is so squeezed into this already kooky plot to begin with. Like, most of the time there's sort of tangential connections. This didn't have like any. It was like Lex was kind of on his own thing, and they crossed over for like a half second. Because otherwise he's not involved at all. So Clark takes the kryptonite necklace to the Kawachi caves with him. Lana shows up. She begins to cry when she talks about Whitney's death, and that how everybody that she's ever gotten close to has left her parents, Nell, and now Whitney.
And Clark says, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, she also says like she's been a crappy friend to him, and he's like, no, you've been great. And they hug and they cry.
About how every time, how she always takes the other person's side against Clark, even though Clark's always right.
It is funny that we actually get a repeat song in this episode from the last one, because Mad World is the closing song in this episode. Unless what I was reading was written wrong, but I definitely know Mad World is the closing song in this episode when they're hugging it out.
It was.
But I did definitely hear in the background, I don't remember what scene it was, but there was a good Charlotte song. But this is the last time that we see Whitney. This is the last time we see Tina. And this is the last time we see Whitney's mom in the series. This is a very goofy, interesting episode. Apparently, this is also the second appearance of Evangeline Lilly.
I didn't see her.
She's a background person in the school. She is wearing a red shirt and overalls.
Yeah, I wouldn't be looking out.
Yeah, she's when Whitney is going to be walking down the hall, she is one of the people that is walking when like the hallway kind of separates.
Okay.
But yeah, there's not like a ton else that I picked out from this. The only like I'm looking through like some trivia. They actually had to cut down the fight sequence because it was pushing 20 minutes long between the two Clarks. And Welling did all of his own stunts in the episode. His stunt double played like the counterpart when they have to like do that kind of stuff because there's obviously two of them.
Yeah. Good on him.
Yep. So they didn't film that Indonesian part in Vancouver. And it caused them a lot of problems. Oh, I did not know this. Did you know that Mac voiced Power Girl in the Superman Batman Public Enemies?
Yeah, I knew that.
I did not know that because she makes a joke about like Mighty Morphin Power Girl. Yeah, but there's not much else I think to really talk about. So this is the second appearance of Dr. Helen Bryce. I think she's in 6 total.
9.
9. Okay. Apparently the interesting, but apparently the military officer that Tina killed, his son comes back later on in season 3, and Whitney will make one final appearance in a flashback in season 4. Oh, that was okay. So this reminded me. Did this feel like to you that this was their attempt at doing a Bizarro episode before they ever thought that they could, with the whole fighting and like evil Clark versus evil Clark?
Kinda.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, this is kind of like an easy way or get away with this, not knowing if they would ever get around to a Bizarro, which they definitely do. Actually, I don't even think it's like that deep into the series that they get to Bizarro.
Just wait 6 more years.
Oh God. Okay, I guess I was wrong.
And oh wait, no. Bizarro is at the end of season 5, or either at the end of season 5, beginning of season 6.
All right. So, did you have an MVP, LVP, and favorite and least favorite scene in this episode?
MVP of this episode, obviously Clark. LVP, forever, Tina Greer. My favorite scene was like the aftermath.
Like the Lana and Clark in the Quachi Caves?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I went a totally different route with this. Like my favorite scene is Tina Whitney screaming at Whitney's mom. Like it is so ridiculous. But I love how crazy it is. I think that they gave what's his name? Like he did a great job playing like Bizarro. Eric Johnson did a great job in this episode. He's my MVP. Because it is very heavy on him in this episode. And he plays like all sorts. Like he has to play actual Whitney.
Yes, he does a lot of range.
Yeah. And then the scene that I think is like the worst is actually our opening scene. It matters not. It is like, oh, well, we're going to have that weird pseudo-lesbian weirdness later on in the episode with Chloe and Lana. So why don't we give the girls like a wet t-shirt scene for them with Clark? It was just so off-putting and unnecessary and served no plot except to be like, hey, Lana sees that Clark has abs. He's got abs of steel.
That's the name of this episode.
Abs of steel.
My least favorite scene was probably Fake Jonathan.
Okay.
Oh, and speaking of Bizarro, the thing that you haven't watched yet, there's going to be a reference to that. I don't remember who actually says it, like which character says the line, but it is said.
Mm-hmm.
So can we talk about what I've been wanting to talk about the entire time?
Yes. I was going to say one more thing. Our next 2 episodes are Insurgents and Suspect, and they kind of connect to each other, and a lot of our foreshadowing leads to these episodes. So the first one is kind of like a panic room scenario, with Martha and Lionel trapped from some thugs. And the second one is where Lionel is shot.
Is the whodunit.
Yes, and Jonathan is arrested for his attempted murder. But yes, from here we could now move to the Elseworlds. I've only seen the first 2 episodes right now, but it's mostly the first episode that I think that we're going to talk about, which is the CW and Mark Guggenheim blue-balling the shit out of Smallville fans.
Yeah.
Because they flat out use the farm, the barn,
and the theme.
And the theme song. They actually cut into Somebody Save Me for 3 seconds, which was awesome. And also was so that opening to Elseworlds as well, we see the scene which everybody talked about that they've been teasing. We also got the character face down that is very obviously in the Smallville version of the Green Arrow suit.
Yes.
Although there's a ton of other references when we finally get to talk to, I think it's Earth 9 was the planet they were on.
Who?
The cutscene, the teaser.
Oh no, that was Earth 90.
90, okay. And so we have that. We also get the reference when that Barry, so that would be the 90s TV show John Wesley Shipp Barry. So there's also a Green Lantern on that Earth, John Stewart. So that was also another great fan tease because everybody thought for a while that they were going to turn Diggle into John Stewart, the Green Lantern. So it's definitely a ton of fan service, but
yeah, they thought they were going to do that Diggle was his middle name, and it is actually John Diggle Stewart.
Mm-hmm. So we got that tease. I did also think we also got this is now the first Lois Lane to never be on Smallville.
Yeah.
Yep. And I actually loved her version.
Yeah, it had a mix of Smallville's Lois Lane and Margot Kidder Lois Lane.
I think it was a lot of Margot Kidder. She has a very similar look to Margot Kidder, but I think she kind of has the ballsiness of the Smallville version a little bit more. The old movie version's a little meek, but it's also the time period. She's very similar to me to Callista Flockhart's Cat Grant.
Yeah.
Which makes sense in that world that, like, she is much more of a 2018, like, take no shit, I'm Lois Lane. Like, I am the woman that can tell Superman to shut up.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. I cannot wait to see more of her.
Because there's talk of while there's a Batwoman TV show in development, there's rumors of a Superman show as well.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that. I feel like it would really hurt Supergirl because it kind of would be goofy having them have separate shows unless their show was more about Lois and Superman was kind of like her, like not a sidekick, but not like a two-hander, but more of like a he's kind of in the background of stuff mostly. You know what I mean?
Oh, so you mean like a Lois and Clark type show?
Yes, kind of more like Lois and Clark. So like, remember when everyone thought Gotham was going to be about the cops and it wouldn't really be about Batman at all? I would like that show if it was really mostly about Lois. And then like Clark was kind of more of a background thing, who would show up in the office or go, like you would hear stuff about Superman or he'd show up at the end of episodes. So it's more about her being a reporter. And I think that would work really well in our current time period about having like a show about like a hardline reporter doing investigative journalism.
Yeah, I have a feeling the animated Metropolis series that's coming to DC Universe is not going to be about that.
I'm sure it's not. But it's different. Cartoons can be a different thing altogether. Because they're not, unless they're the CW ones, specifically, they're not canon to anything. Because the CW ones are canon. The Vixen one, the Constantine one, and then there's like the Earth X one. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, because the whole point of that one was to explain why there was no evil version of Barry.
Oh,
like why it's reverse flat, it's Eobard.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I'll have to watch it and see what's up because I've never watched it. It's on the CW Seed app, so it's free. But yeah, like since I have not seen the third episode and we're not doing like a full review, it was definitely awesome that they gave that real tease to Smallville in the show because it is kind of like the grandfather of the whole Arrow. Like everything that it did built, it's the skeleton in which the Arrowverse is built upon. Like everything that they do in it, like the effects, the people that work on it, the ideas and concepts for a lot of this stuff is very much built upon Smallville.
Yeah, no, and even though or not only that, it heavily inspired the new 52 version of Green Arrow.
Oh yeah, especially that initial one.
Or at least the first volume before took over.
Yeah, before they soft rebooted it again, which is kind of where they're going with the current Green Arrow TV show, is kind of following that right now. Because that run, when they rebooted it again, is where
right now they're doing a mix of the Mike Grell run with like the Longbow Hunters.
Yeah, but the Longbow Hunters, besides the name, has nothing to do with what they're doing.
Yeah, mainly it's Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino's new 52 run on Green Arrow, where
it's their like outsider totem clan.
Yeah,
which I love that story, so I am happy they're going there.
And thank God Emiko carried over into Rebirth.
I love her. She is one of my favorite new characters. But I think we can now close out and go to plugs real quick. So I guess I have the fewer, so I will start. Me and Alan are doing 2 other podcasts. The first one just started last week, which is our comic book podcast. So you can listen to me, Alan, normally Connor Irving and John Seiler. But we'll have multiple people on all the time talking about what we're reading and current comic books and what we think about them, as well as old comics and upcoming comics. You can check that out.
It's called And Now ... Comics.
Yep. So you can catch that in the Phantom Zone thread, just like you catch this one, as well as on YouTube. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to everything. 5 stars. And then we have another one with me, Alan, and Gary that should be coming out real soon, probably in the next week or 2.
Titled Legion of Toon.
Yep. So we are watching and talking about good and terrible cartoons.
Good as in Batman Beyond Return of the Joker. Bad as in Clark's the Animated Series.
I would say bad wouldn't be Clerks. I think that
or more disappointing.
Hulk versus is bad. Clerks is very much like a what would you say? Does not fit in 2018.
Oh, it's totally offensive.
Yeah, it is very much like, oh, did this not age well? But we have been watching a bunch of other things, and besides that, I once in a while write on Los Horror. I sometimes guest on Alan's other show that he's on all the time, which is a good segue to your plugs, Alan.
Yes, you can subscribe to the Los Horror Games podcast, which is doing Gangbusters. The most recent episode was covering the Game Awards and the kind of funny game showcase. So subscribe to that, rate, review. Keep your eyes peeled to loshorror.wordpress.com for my writing as well. I'm currently writing a feature about the way I'm approaching it is I'm literally begging/praying for 2 iconic Star Wars role-playing games to be remastered. Even though Star Wars month or the theme month is far away. Check out Josh Miller's Pokemon Let's Go review. Emmett's Something to Say Through Play article, which has our first Lost Horror Games first piece of video content. Josh Miller has a different type of piece coming out, and Hunter is writing a retro piece about a extremely old video game. When I say old, I mean like 30 years.
All right. Was there anything else that you had to plug?
Join the Phantom Zone group on Facebook.
Yeah, because you never know when you could be invited to do a podcast.
Yeah.
So we will check you guys on the next episode of Smallville Chronicles. I'm Lou Gonzalez.
I'm Alan Muir.
And this podcast stands for Truth, Justice, and the American Way.